Imagine stepping outside and feeling like you're being cooked alive. While most of us rush to our AC when it hits 90, there are people who face temperatures so extreme, their shoes literally melt on the pavement. Welcome to Dallol, Ethiopia, where daily life is a battle against Earth's most brutal heat. At 115 degrees Fahrenheit average, yeah, that's average, this place makes Death Valley look like a beach vacation. And get this, ground temperatures here have spiked to a mind-blowing 462 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to bake bread, right on the ground. How do people survive in literally the hottest place on Earth? Let's find out how these incredible communities turn hell into home. Our story takes us to a place that looks more like Mars than Earth, the Danakil Depression in northern Ethiopia. Picture this, endless white salt flats stretching to the horizon, neon yellow sulfur springs bubbling like witches' cauldrons, and blood-red iron pools that look like portals to another dimension. Not exactly your typical neighborhood, right? This alien landscape sits 410 feet below sea level, basically Earth's basement, and it's home to one of the world's most extreme environments. You know how people say it's like walking into a wall of heat? Well, here, that wall hits you at 115 degrees Fahrenheit before breakfast. Those aren't even the scary numbers. We've seen temperatures climb past 120 degrees Fahrenheit for days on end. But this isn't just about crazy temperatures. The air here is a cocktail of toxic gases from volcanic activity, and the ground literally spits acid. The soil is so hostile that scientists use it to study how life might survive on Mars. Yet somehow, the Afar people have called this hellscape home for generations. Back in the day, these badlands were actually underwater, part of the Red Sea. But about 30 million years ago, 3 tectonic plates decided to play tug-of-war, creating this surreal depression. Today, it's still pulling apart at about an inch per year, like Earth's crust is slowly unzipping itself. Pretty wild, right? The Afar people don't just survive here. They've built an entire way of life around one of Earth's most precious resources, salt. But we're not talking about the stuff on your dinner table. This is survival salt mining, where timing can mean the difference between life and death. Life in the world's hottest place isn't just about surviving. It's about completely flipping your daily schedule upside down. Imagine living in a place where stepping outside at noon could literally cook your organs. Yeah, it's that serious. The Afar people have turned night into day, and they've got survival down to an art form. When most of us are hitting the snooze button, around 3 a.m., the Afar communities are already up and moving. They know the golden rule: get everything done before the sun turns the ground into a frying pan. And we're talking about everything, from gathering water to tending to their goats. Yes, somehow these super resilient animals thrive here too. The clothing here? Forget what you know about desert wear. While tourists might think less is more, the Afar rock loose, multi-layered outfits. Think of it as a personal air conditioning system. The layers trap air pockets that actually keep the body cooler. Their traditional garments, often in bright whites and light colors, aren't just about staying cool. They're walking reflectors, bouncing back that brutal sunlight. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Afar have developed what they call heat meditation. When temperatures peak around 2 p.m., they enter a state of minimal movement and regulated breathing. It's like their bodies go into power-saving mode. Scientists studying this technique found that it actually lowers their core body temperature by up to 2 degrees, enough to make the difference between life and death in extreme heat. Water isn't just important here, it's sacred. Each person needs at least 2.5 gallons daily just to replace what they sweat out. That's double what doctors recommend for people in normal climates. And get this, they've developed a unique way of drinking that involves holding warm water in their mouths for several seconds before swallowing. Sounds weird, right? But there's science behind it. It prevents shock to their internal organs and helps their bodies absorb the liquid more efficiently. Now, let's talk about how these incredible people keep their cool, literally. Forget everything you know about modern housing because the Afar have turned simple science into survival art. Their homes are architectural masterpieces of heat management, and they're doing it without a single air conditioner in sight. The traditional Afar house, called an Ari, looks deceptively simple from the outside, a dome-shaped structure that could fit in your average parking space. But here's the genius part. These homes are engineering marvels. The dome shape isn't just for looks. It creates a natural convection current that pulls hot air up and out through tiny vents at the top. Think of it as nature's chimney. The walls? They're made from a mix of volcanic rock, palm fronds, and local grass, layered in a way that creates tiny air pockets, nature's insulation. When scientists tested these walls, they found they could reduce internal temperatures by up to 25 degrees compared to outside. That's better performance than some modern insulation materials. But here's where it gets really wild. Many AFAR communities have gone underground. Yep, you heard that right. They've created a network of subterranean living spaces that stay at a relatively cool 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which feels like Arctic temperatures compared to the surface. These underground chambers are connected by narrow tunnels that create natural wind tunnels, providing ventilation without letting in the killer heat. The entrances to these homes face east, but not because of any spiritual reason. It's all about catching those precious early morning breezes while blocking the afternoon heat. And check this out. Some families have created what they call heat locks, a series of 3 doors with air gaps between them, like an airlock in a spacecraft. Each chamber gets progressively cooler, so by the time you reach the living space, you've walked through a natural cooling system. Even their furniture has been adapted for survival. Beds are elevated on platforms with tiny holes drilled through them, creating airflow beneath sleeping bodies. Every single detail has been thought through, because in temperatures this extreme, there's no room for architectural errors. In a place where water evaporates faster than you can say, "I'm thirsty," the Afar people have turned water management into an Olympic sport. And trust me, their techniques would win gold medals if there was a survival Olympics. Remember those salt flats we talked about earlier? They're not just pretty to look at. They're actually the community's secret weapon in water collection. At night, when temperatures finally drop below boiling, these salt crystals literally sweat out moisture from the air. The Afar have developed special collection systems using cloth sheets stretched over the flats. Think of it like making your morning dew work overtime. But here's where it gets mind-blowing. They've created what locals call water gardens, underground caverns where water drips down mineral-rich walls and collects in natural stone basins. The temperature in these caves stays around 85 degrees Fahrenheit, practically freezing by Danakil standards. And the mineral-rich water that collects here is so packed with electrolytes that it's basically nature's Gatorade. The real kicker? They've mastered a technique called fog harvesting, using special nets strung up during the rare moments when humidity spikes. These nets can collect up to 5 gallons of water per day. Doesn't sound like much until you realize they're literally pulling water out of thin air in one of the driest places on Earth. And get this, they've developed a complex water sharing system that would make modern economists' heads spin. Every drop is tracked, traded, and treasured. They even have water mediators, respected community members who help resolve conflicts over water rights. Think of them as water judges in this desert courtroom. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth do you grow food when the ground is hot enough to fry an egg? Well, the Afar have some tricks up their sleeves that would make any botanist's jaw drop. First off, forget traditional farming. We're talking about extreme agriculture here. The Afar have developed what they call night gardens, small plots of land that they cultivate exclusively during the cooler night hours. They grow special heat-resistant variants of crops that have evolved over generations to survive in these insane conditions. We're talking about plants that would make cacti look soft. Their secret weapon? Salt. Yeah, you heard that right. They've figured out how to use the mineral-rich salt deposits to create natural fertilizers. They mix it with volcanic soil in specific ratios that they guard like family recipes. Scientists recently discovered that this mixture actually creates a microclimate around the plant's roots, keeping them several degrees cooler than the surrounding soil. But here's the real game changer: underground fungal networks. The Afar have discovered certain mushroom species that thrive in the hot soil and create vast underground networks that help plants share nutrients and water. They call them earth veins, and they cultivate these networks as carefully as any above-ground crop. For protein, they rely heavily on their remarkable goat herds. These aren't your regular farm goats. They're super goats that have adapted to drink less water and extract more nutrients from the tough local vegetation. Recent genetic studies showed these goats have developed unique proteins in their blood that help them process the mineral-rich water without getting sick. Basically, they're the X-Men of the goat world. Living in Earth's hottest hellhole isn't just about physical survival. It's about keeping your humanity when nature's trying its best to cook it out of you. The Afar have built something remarkable here. A community that doesn't just survive together, they thrive together. Picture this. While most of us stress about our AC breaking down, these folks have created a social safety net that's tighter than a spacesuit. They operate on what they call the shared breath system, this wild concept where every family's success is measured by the community's survival. When temperatures spike to brain-melting levels, no one gets left behind. Their education system? It's basically a heat survival masterclass. Kids don't just learn reading and writing, they're taught heat survival skills from the moment they can walk. Imagine your third-grade science class, but instead of building volcanoes with baking soda, you're learning how to read wind patterns and predict deadly heat waves. But here's the mind-blowing part. They've developed a unique social calendar based on heat cycles. Community gatherings, celebrations, even marriages. They're all planned around what they call Mercy Days, when temperatures drop to a chilly 100 degrees Fahrenheit. These celebrations aren't just parties, they're survival strategies disguised as festivals. During these gatherings, they share new heat adaptation techniques, arrange resource sharing agreements, and strengthen community bonds. And get this, they have heat counselors, respected elders who've survived countless summers and act as living weather stations. These human thermometers can predict temperature changes by reading subtle signs in nature that modern weather stations can't even detect. Scientists studying their methods found they're accurate about 85% of the time, better than some high-tech forecasting systems. While the rest of the world is obsessing over the latest iPhone, the Afar are busy inventing survival tech that would make NASA engineers jealous. And trust me, when you're living in nature's oven, innovation isn't just cool, it's the difference between life and death. First up, they've developed these incredible heat suits. But forget whatever high-tech image just popped into your head. We're talking about handmade clothing systems that use locally available materials in ways that modern science is just starting to understand. They weave special patterns that create micro-air channels throughout the fabric, nature's air conditioning at its finest. But here's where it gets really wild. They've created what scientists are calling thermal wells. Deep shafts dug into the ground that use temperature differences to create natural air circulation. Think of it like a reverse chimney for cooling. When researchers tested these wells, they found they could generate air movement equivalent to a modern fan, without using a single watt of electricity. The real game changer? Their water purification technology. They've developed these multi-layer filtration systems using local minerals that not only clean water, but actually enrich it with essential minerals. Big tech companies are now studying these systems to develop new water purification technologies for space travel. Yeah, it's that impressive. And don't even get me started on their communication system. Unable to rely on electronics that would fry in the heat, they've created a network of heat-resistant signal stations using reflected sunlight and smoke patterns. It's like ancient smoke signals got an extreme makeover. During recent power outages, their system kept working while modern communications crashed. One of their coolest innovations is what they call living thermometers, specific plants they've cultivated that change color based on temperature. These biological warning systems are so accurate that climate scientists are now studying them to better understand heat patterns in extreme environments. Here's a scary thought. What happens when the hottest place on Earth gets even hotter? The Danakil Depression is becoming ground zero for understanding our planet's future. And what's happening here is like watching a climate change horror movie in fast forward. Scientists tracking temperatures here have discovered something terrifying. This place is heating up twice as fast as the global average. Think about that for a second. In a place where shoes already melt on the ground, temperatures are climbing even higher. The Afar people have a saying, "The sun is getting closer." And they're not wrong. Their traditional heat prediction methods are being thrown into chaos by these unprecedented changes. But here's where the story gets even wilder. Those incredible salt flats that have been the lifeblood of local communities, they're literally disappearing. Rising temperatures are causing these ancient mineral deposits to shift and dissolve in ways nobody predicted. Imagine watching your hometown's foundations slowly melt away. That's what's happening here. The underground water systems that took centuries to develop are changing too. Those precious water gardens we talked about? Some are drying up as the groundwater patterns shift. The Afar have started mapping these changes using traditional knowledge combined with modern technology, creating what they call heat maps of survival, detailed records of how their environment is transforming. But perhaps the most mind-bending change is happening to the air itself. The toxic volcanic gases that have always been part of life here are becoming more concentrated as temperatures rise. Scientists studying the area have found new chemical combinations in the air that they've never seen before. It's like the atmosphere is cooking up its own deadly recipe. Making a living in the hottest place on Earth isn't just challenging, it's an extreme sport with your wallet. The Afar have turned their hellish environment into an unlikely economic powerhouse, and their business strategies are as innovative as their survival techniques. The salt trade here isn't just business, it's an art form that's been perfected over generations. These salt miners aren't your average 9-to-5 workers. They've developed techniques to harvest minerals in conditions that would shut down most industrial operations. Get this, they can identify different grades of salt just by the sound it makes when struck, a skill that even advanced geological equipment can't match. But here's the real kicker. They've turned their extreme environment into a bizarre tourist attraction. Yeah, you heard that right. People actually pay good money to experience what's basically a preview of global warming. The Afar have created what they call heat tourism, guided expeditions into their volcanic landscape. They've even built special viewing platforms using ancient cooling techniques to prevent tourists from literally cooking while they take selfies. The community has also developed a unique economic system they call heat trading. Different families specialize in different survival techniques. Some are experts at water collection, others at food preservation, and they trade these skills and resources in a complex web of mutual support. It's like a stock market, but instead of trading shares, they're trading survival strategies. Living in Earth's hot zone isn't just about surviving the heat, it's about battling health challenges that medical textbooks haven't even documented yet. The Afar have essentially become human guinea pigs for understanding how our bodies adapt to extreme temperatures. And what they've learned is revolutionizing our understanding of human survival. The community has developed what doctors are calling heat resilience syndrome. Their bodies have literally rewired themselves to cope with temperatures that would kill most people. Their sweat glands work differently, their blood vessels expand and contract in unique ways, and their hearts have adapted to pump blood more efficiently in extreme heat. Medical researchers studying these adaptations say they're seeing genetic changes that shouldn't be possible in just a few generations. But the real medical miracles happen in their traditional healing centers. The Afar have developed treatments for heat-related conditions that modern medicine is just starting to understand. They use a combination of local minerals and plants to treat everything from severe dehydration to heat stroke. One of their remedies, a paste made from local herbs and mineral-rich salt, caught the attention of pharmaceutical companies when it was found to lower body temperature more effectively than modern cooling methods. Mental health here is a whole different game. The constant stress of extreme heat creates unique psychological challenges. The Afar have developed communal meditation techniques that help manage what they call heat anxiety. These techniques are so effective that psychologists are now studying them for treating climate-related anxiety worldwide. As our planet heats up, the Afar's hell on Earth might just hold the keys to humanity's future. What was once considered an uninhabitable extreme is becoming a living laboratory for human adaptation, and the lessons learned here could help us all survive in a warming world. Scientists and engineers are flocking to the Danakil Depression, not just to study the extreme environment, but to learn from the Afar's centuries of adaptation. NASA is particularly interested. They believe the survival techniques developed here could be crucial for future Mars missions. Think about that. Solutions developed in Earth's hottest place might help us survive on another planet. The Afar are now working with international researchers to document their heat adaptation techniques. They're creating what they call a survival library, a collection of traditional knowledge combined with modern scientific understanding. This isn't just about preserving their culture, it's about creating a blueprint for human survival in extreme conditions. But perhaps the most inspiring part of this story is how the Afar view their future. Despite living in what many would consider hell, they see themselves as pioneers of human adaptation. As one elder put it, "We don't just survive here, we show the world what's possible." They're not just adapting to their environment, they're actively shaping it, developing new techniques and technologies that could help communities worldwide adapt to rising temperatures.